Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. You may be in whatever time zone, but the most important time zone at this very moment is the Eastern time zone. We are about to have an awakening. And what we have is it's the 20th of December. It is 2020. We are at the second hour, the 0 minute, that's 20 again. And we are coming up on 20 seconds, and that will be 2020 Eastern time zone. And hopefully we can end this at 2020 Western time zone. The interesting thing was I got that this morning. If you have watched Deepak Chopra, you may have heard him talk about the fact he's done 90 books, and each one of his books was done the same way, that he wakes up in the morning and he stares at the ceiling for 30 minutes, and whatever comes into his head, he records. That's his 90 books. This morning, I used that little process, and that's where it gave me this 2020 thing. It said, you got to start a minute early. You got to do the 2020 thing. So I decided I would do it. I got out of bed, and my first action usually is to head to McDonald's for my morning coffee meditation. And because we are in a red zone here and everything is shut down, I had to take the car so I could sit in the parking lot and drink my coffee. And so I got in the car and I turned on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And what would I hear but Raffi, famous Canadian singer. And the awakening would be in the Eastern time zone, that we all realize everything is alive, everything is conscious, everything is one. That was sort of the message he gave to me, that we got to move towards that. And on comes an interview with Raffi, and Raffi is very famous for the following thing, which fits right in. Here it is. Oh my goodness. We don't have any sound. What the heck's going on here? Hang on. Let me disconnect this. Hang on. We'll do this again because this is important. Let's go back. Okay. I have my headset on, so let me make sure the sound is right here. Hang on, I wait and get the sound right.
Yeah, you could just do that thing that Hoffman does, Grant, and just we can edit it out, and then people won't even notice that you're not wearing headphones. Okay.
Hi, boys and girls.
There we go.
Hello, moms and dads. Grandmas and grandpas. Hello to you. The more we get together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. 'Cause your friends are my friends are your friends. The more we get together, the happier we'll be. That was one of three synchronicities that occurred. The third one hasn't happened yet because we were going to be joined, and he may come in. When he does, I'll let him in, is Alan Steinfeld from New York, is maybe joining us here as one of the members, the panel members. Let's just see if he's in the room here. No, I don't see him, hasn't come yet. I was talking to Alan yesterday. He wanted myself and Nicole to go on a podcast. He runs New Realities. He's a very, very powerful guy in the paranormal business. You will see him if you go to UFO Contact in the Desert. You'll see Alan holding court there. He runs New Realities. He's been interviewed by Deepak Chopra. He's interviewed Boucher. He's brought Boucher to New York City. And the last time I was at Contact in the Desert, we were there, and he said, "Oh, how you doing?" And he said, "I'd like to introduce you to my friend Jay-Z Knight." And I went, "Jay-Z Knight?" I looked over and I go, "Yeah, you do look like Jay-Z Knight." I mean, he literally, he may even have interviewed God on his channel, but I would have missed it. But we were talking yesterday. He wanted Nicole and I to go on this panel that he's doing tomorrow. He's running a big 24-hour event tomorrow. And I said, yeah, sure, I can come on. And then we were talking, and then he said, oh, so what are you doing? And I said, what are you up to? And I said, oh, I'm running this podcast. I'm running this thing tomorrow, and we're doing experiencers, UFO experiencers and art. He said, you are? And I said, yeah, we've done 2 interviews already. And then I said to him, yeah, we did Doug Alton, we did Peter Robbins, and he knows both of them because they both live in his area there. And he said, that's so cool. He said, I'm doing a book on UFO experiencers and art. And I said, oh, good. And he said, can I join the panel? I said, yeah, you can come on the panel and you can ask questions. So Alan may join us, and that's the 3rd synchronicity, that we have a major guy who's doing a book on this subject. So I want to introduce my panel and my guests today. I'm joined by my assistant, Nicole, who was with me. And maybe you can talk about just for 30 seconds or a minute about the 2 interviews we've already done in this. We're doing a panel today, but we've already done 2 interviews. Can you maybe talk about them?
Yeah, quickly. I think we started this off. No, I'm not.
No, I can hear you.
Did that get fixed?
Oh, everybody's muted here. What the heck? Hang on.
Yeah, it's on Grant's end.
Well, I'll go ahead and continue. This idea has crossed our minds a few times over the last few months, and I think every time we've brought this conversation up, Peter Robbins and Doug Ald were always on the top of this list that we were making. So we called our pal Peter, and he was kind enough to join us, and he talked about art and his process and his experiences, but he also shared some chats with us about working with Bud Hopkins and Bud's work as well. So that was a really good first out of the gate interview for this series. And then our second one was Doug Ald, and he was just mind blowing. I mean, not only his experiences, but his artwork to go with it. And we were able to show a lot of that during that interview. So it was really wonderful to listen to his creative process and get his thoughts on ufology and this community as well. And that brings us here to today. This wonderful.
Beautiful. So this is our first panel, and we've got a number of panels coming up. Did you hear somehow I got my sound all mixed up. Did you hear my song? Did you hear the song, or was it muted?
We heard it.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure, because that's the problem when you don't have Desta here. She's busy, I think, on her 4-foot yacht off of Florida, doing whatever. And I thought she usually runs all this stuff. That's why we're having the technical problems, because I usually don't run this kind of stuff. My other assistant that's joining me today is Chase Williams, and you'll see he's been with me for a couple of years, talking in and out. He's been sort of quiet in the background. He eventually will do his story. He wanted to stay in the background. He's now sort of coming forward. He's an engineer, an executive. He's a pretty sharp guy, and but he does have a story. It's like I don't bring on good-looking faces here. My assistants usually have a story that we do. So welcome, Chase. And I see you've got your art behind you, and maybe you can talk about how we want to try to help people to sell their art. That we have, like I have at my right-hand side here, you'll see I have a Leonardo da Vinci. That's an original, a spirit painting done by him. And of course, you can do Leonardo paintings at $50 million or whatever, but he was never on a ship. He never talked to an alien. So I would think that UFO experiencer art is going to be, once this thing does open up, it's going to be pretty famous and pretty expensive stuff. So talk a little bit about the art behind you and what you're hoping to get out of this series of talking to experiencers and going through their art.
Yeah, no, thanks for that introduction, Grant. I've been really heavily engaged in this for the past 3 or so years and a lifetime of experiences, but really this has been an everyday thing for me now for the past few years. And that's when Grant and I connected. The art behind me is just, as Grant said, I have a normal, normal 9 to 5, if you will. And so in my free time, I study the phenomenon, and part of that is connecting with artists like yourselves, probably not as skilled as most of you here, but nonetheless connecting with experiencers that have done something on paper or in oil or in acrylic, and trying to persuade them to sell that to me, which is if they're not in the business of making a living from their art, is typically pretty difficult to do. Most of you are probably familiar with this print. This is just a print. For the life of me, I can't remember this guy's name. Lifetime experiencer he claims to be. This is a rendition of an experience that I had, and this is my little attempt at doing that. And then these are various other experiences. There's actually a really, really, really good one that I just got. That's, forgive, I have a veiled chameleon over here. A really, really good one right here from a woman that's not too far from you, Grant.
Wow. Cool.
So I have written accounts of all these as well, and they're just for me in my office. There's a whole wall of these. And as Grant said, I think in addition to us learning from each other and about each other's experiences and kind of what drives the artists here to do what they do, where they get their inspiration, maybe we can work together, Nicole, Grant, and I, in developing some kind of general website or resource somewhere where all of these links to everyone's art is, for experiencer art, because as far as I can tell, and I've looked relatively extensively, there isn't anything of the such. So that's something that we easily put together, and hopefully that would generate some revenue and some more interest and more discussions. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Beautiful. Okay, so I'll go to our three guests for today, and I'll introduce them according to the way they sent the photos as they came in. First is Tiffany Mac, who I've known for a number of years, an experiencer who has a radio talk show. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about your podcast? You have a show on KGRA where I used to have my show, and let's go from there. And we'll do a little bit more of an introduction once we get to your photo, your paintings.
Yeah, so I have a podcast on KGRA DB, which is called Universal Secrets. My daughter came up with the name. She is also an experiencer, and I'll tell you a little bit about that when we get into the photographs or the pictures. But we really try to spread ourselves across all of the paranormal topics. But when it comes down to it, as an experiencer, I've come out this past year to help support people in their growth and in the process of enduring some of the things that experiencers have to endure, whether we have control of it or not. So it is something that I find very important, and I feel that it is one way for me to share my truth and to open the line of communication for people and let them know that they're not alone.
Beautiful. Perhaps we can do a full interview with you, because you have a story as well as your art. Because today we'll have only time to really do the art, but you have an interesting story, and we're going to show some of your daughter's stuff, which you didn't send it to me, but you sent me before.
She was very excited to supply her art.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, if she can come on, even because we're going to show it over the screen. So if she wants to come in and sort of make some comments on it, I will talk about
her dad should be dropping her off, and I'm not sure what time he's going to be dropping her off. So she may not be here. I'll let you know.
There is a connection to children as well. There was a couple other children that of experiencers that you get this stunning art. So hopefully we can do that. My next guest is Steve Boucher, who's also known as Boucher. And he's a guy, if you get the story, that what I got with him was there are 3 bands that have been abducted in total in the world. One is a band out of Scotland. The second, most people know the story about the Moody Blues, were abducted in 1967 going into London. And the third is Steve Boucher's band, 1972 in St. Catharines, Ontario. So welcome, Steve. And we did your story. You actually became kind of famous in the UFO community. You have a spectacular story that I've done a couple of times. We've interviewed you a couple of times where you have the band getting abducted, and then you have the entire audience getting abducted. And you have actually put out a book, which I'll show once we get in there. But I want to welcome you to join us. And I didn't know you really done art until you sent me one sketch that you'd done, and I was just blown away. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and we're going to show some of your stuff, and We're also going to show, for Nicole, we're going to show a kitchen that you did, which Nicole will be drooling when she sees it. Okay, so, and I'll do a longer introduction when I get there. And we'll talk a little bit about the book that Desta helped you put out, because you published a book. My third guest is April Dyck, and she has been around after today's show. She won't be able to hide anymore, but she's been at a number of conferences. I've met her at conferences, and she sort of sits in the background. She actually has an art studio. You'll see it behind her. She's from BC, from the island, and Canada is one of the most famous places in the world to live. It's considered one of the top places in the world to live. And it's all because of BC. It's not because of Manitoba, where I live. Nobody wants to visit here. Even Canadians don't. But April lives on the island, where it's probably $35 million for a house or whatever it is. It's a beautiful place. And she would talk to me at conferences and talked about her art and stuff like that. So I've invited her on. How you doing, April?
Fantastic. Thank you very much for inviting me. And it's really great to see everybody here.
Beautiful. And I think we'll do an interview with you, because again, we can't really get too much into the UFO stuff, but I'm going to show a couple of your photos, UFO photographs. I'm going to show a video that you just took. And then when we do the full interview, we'll get into the fact that you may have been part of a crash, a UFO crash situation.
Maybe.
So we'll get into that, a full interview, but we're going to look at your art today. And you're one of the people who does this as a profession. That's your life, is you sell your art. You're professional, right?
For the past 6 years, yes, since I've been retired. And so I just do art. I can't help it. I have hundreds and hundreds of paintings, and I'm so surprised and happy to share work that I've been doing that I haven't shared with anybody, really. So like my UFO art, I haven't shared with anybody before.
Beautiful. But now they're going to know who you are, because you're on this channel. So people will know that you'll be trying to go to the bathroom at the conference, and they'll say, hang on, I've seen you before. Where is it? And you're going to have a hard time getting to the bathroom. That's usually what happens. Once you get on one of these shows, people know who you are. We've just been joined now by another panel member, who is a person that Nicole and I just interviewed, is Candice Powers, who's that? Maddie?
That's my daughter. She's going to be able to.
Oh, okay.
She's wanting to join with us, if
Beautiful.
That's okay.
Beautiful.
All right.
Welcome, Maddie. And we've got Candice, who we just did an interview, which will be going up on Nicole Sackage's YouTube channel. And we want to welcome Candice. She's going to sort of sit in the background. We did hers already. We talked about her art. Hers was like inspired art that just sort of came out of her. Very interesting stories that she has. And she's also she was a professional musician. So there is this connection to UFOs, both with art and with music. I've done the music story in a book, and I guess eventually we'll do something with the art thing, although Alan Steinfeld is doing that. So let me take over the screen now, and we'll start with the photographs here. Now, hopefully we get this all done again. Share. Now this is a piece of art that is the guy we're doing this interview next Sunday. This is a guy who also lives in BC. It seems like a lot of UFO people live in BC. And I've known him for 25 years. He and his son got into this kind of stuff. They've actually done movies. And so we're going to do that next week. That's just, you'll see this on the cover of a lot of my books. I use this photograph that I've always been floored that people can do this kind of art. And that's because this is my art. So I can sell it kind of cheap, but because I can't do art, I'm so fascinated. How do these people do this kind of stuff? So we go to our first is Tiffany, and here's the screen for your show. And you've run your show for how many years?
Well, I started with Kevin in 2016. We did a year of shows together weekly, and I ended up going through a divorce, so I did end up backing out completely. And just this past year, we got back together at the beginning of 2020, and that's when I decided that I would come forward with my information as an abductee or experiencer. So yes, I didn't create that image. That was all Kevin.
There you go. It's an honor to have you on, and
Thank you.
we've had a lot of correspondence over the years. So
Mhm.
let's just go through, and the people on the panel, you can just sort of open your mics if you want to jump in with a question, because what we're just going to do is sort of quickly go through the art. And Tiffany, if you've got anything you can sort of explain as we go through all this, because you've got a lot of art here.
Sure.
And then we're going to go through
Absolutely.
your daughters, and people can jump in with any questions they want as we go through it. So here, let's
Yes,
start with
and Maddie's listening, and she is on. So
okay. So this here, did you paint this, or did you just
you
buy
know
them?
what? I actually I abducted that photograph from someone else on the internet, but I just decided to make it a mask this year, and sort of give COVID the mantis finger. So I do have a connection with mantis, and so do my daughter. So does my daughter Madeline. We have been keeping them for about 6 years now. The first day that we moved into our old house, Madeline found a mantis that was only as big as our fingernail. And from that point, they started just swarming us, and we ended up becoming the crazy bug people. And we still have some today. But when it comes down to it, I have had relations with these beings as a visitors, and they're amazing and benevolent, and from what I feel, not as harmful as some of the other beings that have decided to take interest.
We don't have you actually did some mantis paintings, and we don't
I did, and I don't have them right now. Like I said, I have moved, so a lot of the things probably got tossed out, unfortunately. But some of the paintings, if you continue through, I'll let you know some other details.
beautiful. Okay, because that one may be one of the ones that somebody would want, because that was the one that I always remembered you doing the mantis paintings.
Yes.
You had the connection with the mantis.
Yes.
We've now been joined by Alan Steinfeld. Welcome, Alan, and you can open up your mic and ask questions. We're going through the photos. I've already sort of played you up as being the big kahuna on the show here. So
I have to say that is one of my favorite mantis being pictures. And you did that, Tiffany?
No, I took that one. I stole that one, and I claimed it. Not as my own, but it's on my mask.
But she has done mantis paintings. So if you're looking for a mantis painting, she has it. We don't have it today, but she has.
No, I have actually. We've raised them, and so I sent them out. I sent nests out to people all over who do organic farming. So we keep them as pets, and as just sort of there are familiars and protectors. So now this guy, I really have had a few visitations with this guy. He always stands out, and I've never felt threatened. Just more of a telepathic connection. So no negativity there, though. He looks a little bit intimidating.
And who did that? Who did that?
I painted that, and I painted this one.
These are all going to be her paintings, Alan. We've got about 20, some of them here we're going to go through.
These are great. These are really.
And these are very kind. These are not beings that I have found aggressive in any way.
You've done a lot of turtles.
I did. I'm not sure. I went through a turtle phase, and I really find them to be amazing creatures, considering they can live 150, even 200 years. And I wish I had that longevity.
I'll give you a little background story. I, as you probably may know, I chase around what Ron Pandolfi's up to over the last 20 years. His wife, Aliha, has a foundation called the Kashmir Foundation. One of the big things she does is she goes around the world and works saving turtles. And they also have a drone program where they try to stop poaching. So she has a big turtle connection. So there may be something to turtles and UFOs.
Well, I have seen a USO, so that's sort of maybe part of the connection. So this is just the next pictures. I can't see which ones you're going to be posting, but this was art with acrylic, and I really enjoyed doing a lot of more abstract paintings. That one was for my daughter.
I do want to say something about turtles and creatures like dolphins and whales. Some people think they are off-planet species that didn't evolve from Earth, and that may be part of the extraterrestrial connection here.
Maybe.
Beautiful.
They are unique in their, I guess, physiology, I suppose.
Mhm.
I mean, at least the dolphins and whales. So, yeah. Who is this?
This is just someone who peeked in on me one night, and I decided to make a coaster of him. So the ones that are in these little square shapes are my coasters. Another benevolent being who just pops in, and actually this one had more of a pink hue, and I never really added the pink to it, but a very loving feeling from this one.
Wow. I had a girl who's now in Florida who's a lifetime experiencer. She mentioned the pink.
Oh, really?
Pink as well.
Yeah, this one emitted more of a pink hue, and I don't usually see auras or anything, but I almost wonder if that's what it was.
I'll link you up with her.
Okay.
Is this a sexless being, or is that more?
I didn't feel any kind of sexuality from them.
Mhm.
So now the jellyfish, I always have a connection with jellies. I own a place in Destin, Florida, and we have to be very careful of the moon jellies. They seem to really be very prevalent at some times of the year, and we have had man of wars. But I'm terrified of water, absolutely terrified of water. But I do love the jellyfish. So this is just a picture of me trying to cope with my fear and look at them in a different light. And this is my buddy, my little Preston Highway. He passed away last year.
Beautiful.
And he reminds me of sort of like a Wookiee.
Those eyes are so intense. That's the most
Yes.
thing in there.
Yeah, he was my little Wookiee. He had a human heart. Now this painting was actually a 36 by 40 something canvas, and I did sell it for a commission of $600. It has, you can't really tell that it has the definition of sand in it, but all of the corals were made with a sand inside the acrylic paint, and he actually had some texture to him as well, and he's a loggerhead.
Wow.
Great.
Another coaster, another being with intense eyes. Now this one goes, it's 2 panels. So this one, and then there was another one that had another like a little cathedral to the right of it. I don't know if you have
Okay,
that
that's
one
coming up
together.
later. I don't know if I've got them together though. Okay.
Okay. So this is Santorini. I took a picture of it. I used to live, I lived on the island of Crete, Greece for almost 4 years, but the family that I was entangled with had a compound on the island of Santorini with 9 sort of homes in one little compound. And this was looking out over the ocean, all of the bougainvillea over on the top left side. And you can just feel the warmth of the ocean. Now, this is sort of an interesting piece. There's a lot of pieces here that have a lot of orbs, and these were all made in the middle of the night, and I woke up to them, and I'm not sure how I created such perfect circles. And I really don't remember doing it. So these are more done in a trance state.
I'll give you a little background to this. The next photo is this one here. I had an encounter with a guy by name, they call him Tyler D. If you read the book American Cosmic, he's the big NASA guy. He showed me a bunch of photos on a phone. We were in Pennsylvania. He said, "What do you think of this, Graham? What do you think of this?" And he showed me a bunch of photos. This is one of the photos. When I saw yours, I go, "Oh, that's the same photo Tyler D showed me." It's in the building at Hughes Aircraft where the rumored jump room was. And he showed me this, and he didn't tell me whether he believed or didn't believe it, but he had been to the building. He had taken these, there's a bunch of photographs, but when a bunch of paintings, they don't have any signature on them. But when he showed me this painting, as soon as I saw yours, I went, "Oh, that's sort of the same sort of story." I just want to show you that.
Interesting. Well, yeah, so these orb paintings were very interesting for me. So this is right after the bombing of Paris, and I did 2 tributes, one in blue and gold and the other in blue and silver. Just quick 20-minute paintings. So
Mhm.
that's just what that is. But it looks like some UFOs over. This was
Can I
my
ask you a
this was
can I
my
ask you a question?
Preston Highway.
I just want to ask you, do you relate to any of Van Gogh's work, Starry Night, and those?
I do. I love that. And when you talk about the water lilies, I love water lilies, and I ended up naming my daughter Lillian based on all of that more abstract and beautiful stuff. So,
Great.
but this was a 10-minute little sketch of my Preston Highway from the side. And this guy, I absolutely love this. It only took me about 30 minutes to paint. And I'm really not sure where the I don't know. I really love this. I don't really have much to say about it other than I like him a lot. He's a good guy. This is more whimsical and fun. Just drawing and painting with my daughters, and this is what we came up with a few years ago.
Here's some of your orbs. There's actually
More the orbs.
put you in contact with a woman who's doing, I mean, it's almost identical to her painting. She's doing orb ones. I did some orb panels, and I used some of her paintings on the orb panel as background, but this looks identical to what she's painting.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I love hearing that, because this is another one of those trance paintings that were
Especially the weird sort of colors,
Mhm.
not what you normally see with an orb. And she had the same sort of weird sort of colors that yours has there.
interesting.
Here's the-
Tiffany,
Yes.
here, I'll start my video. It's Nicole here. Would you mind telling us a little bit more in detail about you finding these trance paintings? I mean, do you wake up and find all your art supplies all over the place, or is there just a perfect painting right in front of you?
Well, let me tell you, because a lot of times I'll go in and I'll have a blank canvas and I just stare at it and stare at it and stare at it. And my husband was working nights at the time, and I had, 2 little girls, and they would be in bed. And so it would just be private time for me. And I would pretty much be sitting there, and then I don't remember painting them, going to bed and waking up and going back in my craft room to think that I'm going to be staring at either just a background of something that maybe I had started, and I would find these complete paintings. So I think they're more of maybe a self-hypnosis and trance state.
Mhm.
Those are worth double the price. We double the price on those.
Well, could it be different beings working through you?
Maybe. I haven't really put that much thought into it. It's very hard for me to part with these, because I do feel like they are a piece of me and they're part of my subconscious or unconscious. And so here's another one, and I feel that these are UFOs in the sky, in the night sky.
Mm.
That again, there's photographs that are almost the same as this. It's just stunning
Mhm.
how close they are to this girl from Illinois, in fact.
This looks.
This guy, I find him attractive. I feel like there's a good thing behind those eyes. There's a lot of intelligence and a sensitivity that not everybody wants to believe in. I think that we're bombarded with the negativity of sci-fi and these beings that just want to take over the world. But I feel like maybe they've been here a long time, and they're trying to help us progress rather than trying to beat us down and kill us.
Now, once again, I think Ellen asked you this question. I often ask experiencers, "Did you see any sex organs?" And they say no. And then I ask,
No.
"Well, how do you know it's a male or a female?" So you're sensing? Is it a sense that this is a male, that you just
Mhm.
sense it's a male?
Yes. Yeah.
One other thing I want to say about the trance paintings is that there was just a big exhibit at the Guggenheim Museum in New York. Well, it was about 2 years ago, by a woman named Hilma af Klint, and she was a theosophist. She would go into a trance, and these beings would paint through her, and the museum was covered with these trance paintings. And I wrote a review of it. I'll send it to you.
Wow. Yes, absolutely.
It was a breakthrough in modern art. She was the first abstract painter. and
Wow.
it's rewriting the history books because of that work that was shown. So
Is that
Wow.
part of your book? Maybe just to talk for a second about your book. You're doing a book on art and
art and UFOs, and how the artist, the subtitle is the artist's role in creating new realities. So if the artist transcends the personality in order to bring through the greater consciousness. I was inspired by this dialogue of Plato called Ion, I-O-N, where Socrates is talking to this poet, and he says to this poet, "Do you know what makes your work so great?" And the poet says, "Yes, it's when I'm passionate and giving emotion to the words." And Socrates goes, "No, that's not what makes your poetry so great." He says, "When you are out of the way and the gods are working through you, that's what makes your work so great." And so I was inspired. What is it that works through the artist? And what is the artist trying to tell us about the future? Marshall McLuhan says the artist is the only person that's looking forward into the world. Everyone else is looking backwards. So the artist plays the role of creating new realities with their visions from the unknown. Like Marcel Duchamp says, the artist is the medium, like a medium, taking downloads basically to create what human consciousness has yet to recognize.
beautiful. Okay.
And this is the exploration. So thank you for sharing your work here.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this guy, I don't know if you can see, yes, it's an elephant, but if you remove the snout and the horns, you can see a gray in the face.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I sort of feel like I didn't expect to draw that or paint that. That wasn't what I intended, but it took me by surprise after it was done, and I looked at it and saw the gray being inside of the face. So I really like that one. Another one of my turtles. Love these guys. This is a watercolor as well. Just some symbols that I came up with. We were trying to create some little ornaments or something like that one year right before Christmas. And these are some images that I decided to draw, and you see the craft and you see the beings coming in and out. And
Do you ever get symbols in your
I have, but the things that I've seen in the past, there was a time where I was, um, it was about probably 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was this strange red glow in my bedroom, and I looked over, and it was like a hologram that was placed a foot above a foot above my carpet, and it had all of these symbols and all of these different types of writing. Where there were runes, there were hieroglyphs, there were all of these different types of writing, and some of it looked Russian, some of it looked Greek, some of it looked like I said, hieroglyphics. And I literally walked all the way around this. I didn't want to touch it because it was like a red glowing physical shape, and I didn't want it to touch me, but I remember thinking, my gosh, my brain is just going to freaking pop because I can't understand it. So at some point I'm like, I'm going to bed, because if I'm meant to understand it, it will happen eventually. It'll come back to me, and then I'll be able to understand it, but maybe my brain is just not ready for that explanation. So this sort of had that type of relation with it. It's just those are simple signs, but yeah.
Did you ever talk to Suzanne Chancellor about her? She had a 3D, her and the guy who wrote Children of the Greys also had the thing formed, the 3D hologram thing where they can walk around in it and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, she had,
No.
yeah. I'll put you in contact with them. Yeah,
Okay.
that's an interesting story. They both thought it had something to do with the cure for cancer, and I'd actually put out the offer to pay to have them regress to see if the formula would be the same. Because Yvonne
Wow.
Smith told me that if you go back into a regression, you can actually reproduce the symbols. It's very easy to reproduce them.
That would be awesome. Mine probably had to do with making a new formula for non-aspartame sugars. sugar substitutes. I don't know.
That symbol underneath the spaceship back in that seems like a whole, do you have any sense of what that can be? No.
A person coming down. Right now, I'm thinking baby Jesus. I don't know. I have no idea.
Mhm.
Just a scene from when I lived in Greece. Just a fun little calm 10-minute painting.
Here's the other half of that painting you were talking
No, that's not the other half of
Well,
it.
that's-
There's
okay.
it's further down, but this is a scene from Santorini, just from my head.
Mm.
Okay, so those are the ones I picked from yours. There's
Thank you.
a couple more. Now we're gonna go to your daughter if
Yes.
she's ready to go. I just wanted to point this out because it sort of ties in, and this is a story that I've told a couple times. People haven't heard. There's the famous artist Akiana Kramar, who, if you've watched her stuff, she's very famous. She started getting dreams at 4 years old of being taken through the galaxy, and at 5 years old she disappeared for a number of hours. And she did this famous painting at 8 years old, The Prince of Peace. And she's done a number of, this is the one that she did. The painting disappeared. It got stolen. And so she did a second one just recently. And she's now, I think, about maybe 25, 26 years old. She stated that she had been taken by Jesus or by God through the universe and shown the 1,000 faces, and that the stuff that she's now drawing and painting is based upon this, the dreams at 4 years old and this experience at 5 years old. So I've often talked about this, where does inspiration come from? And I was always fascinated with this girl who could paint, just unbelievable at 5, 6 years old. And I was lecturing at Eureka Springs, and at the end of the lecture, I was talking about her paintings, and a woman came up to me and she said, "I just want to let you know that was an abduction." And I said, "You're talking about the Akiana 5-year-old?" "Yeah." I said, "That was, I'll guarantee you that was UFO related." And so then I just left at that. I was there the next year or 2 years later, and I guess I must have been talking about the photographs again. And the woman came up again and she said, "I just want to let you know that had UFO, that her paintings are UFO related." And I said, "Well, how do you know? Did you work for the family, or how do you know this for sure?" And I can just tell you that she gave me enough information to indicate to me, yeah, she did know the family, and she had talked to the daughter, and she'd also talked to the Akiana's brother, who she said was involved. So whatever it is, there's this sort of a parallel between art and UFOs. And even though Akiana's story is always interpreted as Jesus and God and stuff like that, this woman gave me some indication that there may be some sort of parallel other thing involved as well. So so I'm interested in, and Tiffany had sent me some of the art from her daughter, and I said, "Well, let's bring some of this stuff on. I would just like to see it," because your daughter is what, 10 years old?
10 years old. Yes. I mean, this lady's art puts everybody to shame. I mean, it's so beautiful. It's amazing. And I have seen her, I've seen her before showing her work. And I think that that is whether you want to say God-given talent, whether it's an intelligence beyond our world, guiding her hand, I think that's an absolute possibility. It's beyond the skill of a 5-year-old child to
But your
create
daughter's, as
something
we're
like
going to
this.
see right now, your daughter's, is she there?
She is. She
Okay.
is Maddie. Let's see. Where is she?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
So
this is the other.
Madeline, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted, if I didn't realize I had this one. This is the one I like the best. It's called Wonder. And you can
Yeah.
actually go online and see her paint this in high speed.
It's
They
amazing.
speed it up as she paints this painting. It's called Wonder. So Maddie is there. Okay. Here.
How old is Maddie again?
Maddie is 10.
Amazing.
She sort of found a passion over the past year and begged and pleaded to get this program called, Maddie, what's the program called? Procreate is the name of the application that she uses. She draws by hand, free-handed, and is able to manipulate and add colors to her sketches and cartoons. And she has also created all of these characters on her own, but she's also writing a book about these characters. And so I'm going to let my lovely, beautiful, talented daughter describe some of her art.
Maddie, this is fantastic. This is almost like the Akiana thing. Like, there's very few 10-year-olds who can produce art like you have. So just talk about where you got the idea, and how long does it take you to do one of these things, and how long have you been doing this?
Well, let's start off with how I got the idea. I mainly got it from looking at other art by other artists and watching on YouTube and TikTok on all those art things. So I got dragged in by the idea of creating my own piece. So I decided to start drawing, and boom, I made Nova, which is probably not on here, but
I think Nova's in there.
I think Nova's
really the first ever thing I drew.
So you started, how long ago was this? Last year?
No, actually, I've been drawing for most of my life. Maybe, I think I got good at drawing at maybe around 1st or 2nd grade, which I was,
Wow.
I want to say 7 or 8 years old.
Wow.
You know, Grant, I just want to point out, she used a phrase you often use when you describe UFOs, like boom, they get dragged in and they just dive into it.
Yeah, that's where I think there may be some added talent here as well, that you have a gift that you're pulling out of the field or something. This is not natural. There's something special going on here. Who's this character here?
This is actually my sister's character, which she wanted me to draw. These two are not as old, but still older than my newest. Her name is Luca, which she is a lynx.
And how far are you along in your book? You're doing a book on this?
I think I'm around 3 pages in. I've lost inspiration, but I definitely will try and finish it very soon.
Wow. Well, we help people do books. We can show you how to self-publish if you've never done it. We'll just show you how to do it, and we'll guide you. Desta is an expert at it. We've done a number of books. In fact, Steve Boucher, who's on here today, Desta helped him publish his book. So we'll help you, because you've got something that I think people should see. Here's another one of your characters.
Yeah, I actually have the name on this one. Her name is Okapi. She's a saber-toothed tiger.
They look
That
like
is-
Japanese animation, sort of. There's some inspiration, some of the Japanese cartoon things.
I mean, I don't really watch anime, but yeah, they do have wonderful art. So this
one looks like an
Zenith?
angel. Is Zenith an angel?
I don't know. I really just wanted to put a halo on him.
Wow. Just fascinating.
That is, again, the first drawing, just her head. This is Midnight Frost, or just Frost for short. She's a cat.
Yeah, you seem to have a lot of cats. Is there
Yeah,
some
yeah.
connection to cats?
I mean, not in specific. I just love drawing animals mainly.
Wow.
This is Zara. And
This is Zara. Oh yeah, I see the name is on there. Zara.
Zara.
What do your people and do your kids in school see it? Do they ask you to draw stuff? Because I can't see anybody at your age that has this kind of talent. What do your friends say about this?
Honestly,
They all
we
want you
normally
to draw
keep
their
to
own
ourselves,
characters.
but, yeah. I do sometimes get commissions,
Wow.
but I normally keep it to myself.
Well, we've got Chase here. He's pretty an executive. So if we get a call from Disney or somewhere, we're going to pass it on to your mother, and you may get a job out of this, because this is pretty good stuff.
That's right. And Maddie, don't worry about procrastinating and not finishing on the 3rd page. I've got books that I started 20 years ago. I'm still on the 3rd page. So we'll help you out, get it finished if you need the help.
All right.
So who's this,
Um,
Maddie?
This is definitely my oldest. And this one's on paper, which I normally draw on digital.
Is it pumpkin spank or pumpkin spark?
Pumpkin spice.
Pumpkin doesn't look like that.
I
think
mean,
it looks like
pumpkin spark.
pumpkin.
You got some cool names too. You got
Oh yeah, this is Nova. That's the character I was talking about earlier. She's definitely my oldest, around 6 or 7 years old.
Wow.
And I love how it says BU.
Yeah. Where did that come from? BU. Where'd you get that, Maddie?
Honestly, it just popped into my head.
Right. That's great.
I kind of want to add more things onto her shirt too, so why not?
Yeah.
It's a good positive statement.
Oh,
So Nova is a what?
Nova is a wolf dragon, water dragon. So this is definitely another older one, but
Are those gills behind
Yeah.
her ears?
that's, yeah, gills.
Awesome.
And I don't know. Oh, that one was for Derby, actually.
Since we didn't get to have our Derby this year, we made some extra special art for Derby. So this is not a horse, obviously, for Derby, but
yeah, it's a
what is this?
It's a dog.
So we're racing dogs in
Oh.
2020 instead of horses.
Mhm.
Oh, this is something I drew again of Nova, another older one, but I let Molly decide about what she thinks of Nova. So I gave her the picture and let her see what she thinks. So
So she gives descriptions of each one of her characters so that she can create the storyline. So this is
yeah.
just part of her process, showing what the description is and what their abilities are.
This is great, Maddie. You know, I mean, I'm no author, but I know a big part of the process in developing stories, you know, fictional stories is character sheets, and that's exactly what you're doing there. You're developing an outline for your characters, and then I'm assuming using that to write your book. Very cool.
Yeah, it's a very internal part of it, and this is something that she's done on her own, is create these fantastic characters and even have a little backstory on each one.
Mm.
Very impressive.
I think this one was a commission from my sister from a while ago. I do like it, but I don't think she ever used it.
Mm.
How much is a commission? How much do?
A peppermint or some
Oh my
chocolate.
goodness!
No, actually.
Chase is biting at the.
Go up. We could do better than a
My
peppermint.
commissions are worth your soul.
There you go. There you go. Maybe a little down from there. But yeah.
All right. So this is based off of one of the book series I'm reading right now called Warrior Cats. So I just made my own characters. There's a better one on paper that I drew maybe a week ago, but I can't seem to find it.
How long does it take to draw one of these things? Like a whole thing?
A whole thing, now it takes maybe an hour to 2, depending on how much details I want to put on.
Wow. Well, I'm glad we got to talk to you before you became famous.
Well, the other thing I don't know if you understand is that with the program that she uses with Procreate, she can take those characters and add movement to them, and so she can control and create her own cartoons. And so I'll have all of my phone and all of my iPad full of her her drawings, sketches, and she records as she draws from the first line to the end in the last color. She records the entire process. So most of my phone is taken up with all of her drawings and her.
No. Most of your phone is taken up with like your pictures of your accidental pictures of like your toes or something.
Expose.
Let's talk about this more. Right. Okay.
I don't know if you want to ask her, because I don't usually get her on, but if you would like to talk about the orbs that she's seen. Do you want to have a quick description of where she started getting inspiration?
Tiffany, real quick too. I was just going to say, I remember, oh golly, it hasn't been that long, a decade, 15 years ago. All of that illustration, that illustrative process, on the computer or any kind of electronic device. I did a little bit of illustration, and for something that moves like a cartoon or a game, which is actually what I was designing at the time, you had to design each one of those individual sprites. So I remember specifically, I think there was a sun. It was a children's app that I was designing, and there was a sun in the sky, and the sun had eyes and had a mouth. And to get the sun to look from left to right was like 100 sprites for the animation to look good. So it's incredible what what Maddie and others have access to today. But
well, she's
really,
still
really cool
Maddie.
stuff.
Do you still do like freeze frames? Like you have to show the movement from a standing position to the arm coming up and then landing the paw. Do you still have to do individual, or does the app help with that?
The app definitely doesn't help with that. I do have to do it on my own. Probably why it's a lot harder, but I don't think I've ever done a full animation.
So it sounds like you still have to do the same
Quite
process,
a bit.
but there's obviously a lot more advancements in that technology.
Yeah.
Better than working on the MS Paint, right? Yeah,
right.
Maddie, your mother mentioned that you've had some sort of encounters with orbs, or do you think you're getting help from somewhere, or do you have experiences like your mother?
Definitely not like Mom, but I do kind of get experiences. I mean, it's stopped ever since I met Molly. I have absolutely no clue why, but
it's because I told him that you needed some time off. You needed a break.
Do you think you get help from elsewhere, that somebody's helping you do your stuff, or is it just talent that you got from your mother?
Not sure.
Not sure, but it's spectacular. I mean, here's the last couple here.
The last one was not mine. I put it in the photos for inspiration for dragons, since I absolutely forgot how to draw those. But
yeah, Maddie, I was going to ask you that. Do you feel like you're compelled to do this? Like you have to get this out of you?
She's obsessed.
At times, yeah, I do.
How many hours a day would you spend drawing and stuff?
Sometimes it's the whole day, and I only save time to like eat.
Literally,
you better document the story. That's what they did with Akiana. You got to start documenting the story, because if you suddenly become well known, everybody's going to want to know the story of how this thing unfolded. And if you look at Akiana's story, they've documented the whole thing.
She draws so much that I have to take the iPad away, and the colors and anything to use, you have to actually take it from her, because she will continuously do it. She'll do it 16 hours a day, drawing all of this art. It's not like I'll draw here and there a few times a week. She would, from when the first time that she opens her eyes in the morning to the last time she closes her eyes at night, she will be drawing.
Amazing.
Wow.
And these are the ones that
Maddie.
make the best. These last couple. What is this one here?
This isn't actually a drawing. It is actually an app called Gotcha Club. It's where you can make all sorts of like people and stuff. You can also make many stories just by making the characters, changing their pose, and taking pictures.
Is this you, Maddie? Is that last character you, or?
No, just random characters.
Oh, okay.
This one is the one I like the best.
Oh yeah, that's I absolutely forgot her name. But yeah, that's a shark.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's the one I put on my Facebook to advertise for today. I mean, absolutely spectacular. Honor to have known you, and we'll maybe do it again. We'll get you on when you've got some more material, because you're very talented, and I think you just keep going. And it was really an honor to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Maddie, before you go, can you tell us a little bit about what it's like taking care of mantis insects? I saw some videos. You guys have quite a few, don't you?
It's definitely hard at times because sometimes someone leaves out the crickets and they all flung each other, fly everywhere, and just drop on the floor, and I have to get them because someone decides not to put the container cap back on. So
Well, what about the mantis hanging out on the inside plants inside the house?
oh no, that's definitely your fault too.
It's wonderful.
Well, thank you. Beautiful. Let's move ahead now to Steve Boucher. And here's his rooster photograph from the 1970s when he was a musician. And you there, Steve? You're unmuted.
Yeah, I guess I would be about 16 or 17 in that picture.
And you became a musician, like were you doing the rock thing at 16, 17 all the way sort of through when you guys were all abducted?
Yeah. I probably started playing around 14. I picked up the recorder in BC when I spent part of my early life on Vancouver Island in BC. I lived in Nanaimo and also in Gibson's Landing, where they used to film the series The Beachcombers.
Wow.
And in school, part of the music curriculum was to learn these little recorders because they were inexpensive instruments and easy to distribute amongst the kids. And so I kind of picked it up there, but I felt a connection with it right away. And I just immediately excelled over all the other students when I was learning it. And so I brought it back to St. Catharines when we moved back here. That's the cover of my my new book, Beyond the Extraterrestrial Firewall, An Experiencer's Point of View. And at the bottom, you can see the foreword is by Grant Cameron.
There you go. And your story, we've done it a couple of times. I don't know if you've been on Tiffany's show, but I've had you on a couple of times. You actually became fairly famous. I did the interview with you first. Then there was a guy who did the interview with you out of Toronto, and then the sort of the evil demon people got a hold of it or something like that, and they made you famous. You got a YouTube video that has over 2 million hits, correct?
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
2 million hits on the main video that was done by Mitch Fillion.
Yeah. And it was a weird synchronistic story because I was doing the book on music and I had heard your story and I had gone to everybody in Ontario to find out who was these people because they changed your names. And then we were in Brantford, Ontario, and you stood up at a UFO experiencer thing and started telling the story. And I said, hey, I've heard this story before. I'm looking for this guy. And it was just so weird and so your book is out, and anybody that wants, you can do interviews, and it's an incredible story. It's we won't go through it, but it's basically you get abducted, your entire band gets abducted. You go through your childhood experiences with your father, with the ship, and then you tell this very bizarre story. I remember we were in Toronto at the bar in the front of the hotel when I think it was what's his name from the Pyramids of Mars, where he was sitting there.
Kevin Estrella.
Estrella, yeah, and I was saying, okay, now Steve, tell them the story about them abducting the entire audience. And then Kevin goes, "What? You never told me that." And then he re-interviewed you. It's just the wildest story of being at Brock University, where they take the entire audience. For people who haven't read or watched Steve's story, it's on my YouTube, but I would suggest you get his book. And you did the drawing. I didn't realize you'd done the drawing until after you sent me one drawing, and then I went, wow, it's the same sort of thing where these experiencers seem to be able to draw it.
Well, the person that did the cover of my book, he used the central figure was one of my drawings of the being that I call Rigel.
Rigel, yeah, we've got a drawing you did of him. Now for Nicole, because Nicole is a chef, and I'd seen you're sort of an architect, design stuff, and you designed this kitchen. So I said, send me the pictures of the kitchen. I want to show Nicole so she knows how to build her kitchen in her house. If she gets it, she can sort of hire you. This is the kitchen that you designed. And I think it's kind of funny because on your story of the being on board the ship, if you'll note in the kitchen, there are no knobs on any of the cabinets or anything. And part of the story you had was when you're on the ship, you grabbed that knob off of one of the drawers or whatever it was, and you had no clothes. You had no place to hide the knob. Yeah. And they made you give the knob back. And that's why I said, I tell people when you see this, there's no knobs. That's because, and it does look like a ship. I mean, it does look like the inside of a ship. It has the moving edges, like no 45-degree angles, the whiteness. But you designed this kitchen, correct? And is this where in Toronto?
I'm afraid I can't take credit for the whole thing. I didn't do the ceiling and the lighting and all that. I just did the cabinets. Wow. But the whole concept kind of came together. I worked from a concept that had originally been started by an architect, and the drawings got corrupted, and it was given to me to try to make sense of it and create the kitchen from that. And so that's what I did.
That's beautiful.
Where is this place? Is this a physical location?
I'm not sure exactly where it is. It's here somewhere on Earth, but I don't know where. We get jobs from all over the place, and I've designed so many kitchens now that it's hard to keep track of where they all are. But this was kind of one of the crowns of my achievement, this one's.
It's beautiful. It actually reminds me, aside from being a cook and a chef, my family buys old houses and restores them. And every once in a while, we buy a newer house that doesn't take as much restoration. And I actually took design classes and went to college on an interior design scholarship, actually. So every once in a while, my parents and the team that I work with, I get to throw my designs into these rehabilitation houses. And the last house I actually did was a very sleek designed kitchen, and it was white on white with curves. And Grant, you brought it up. I didn't put any handle pulls or knobs in that kitchen either. Everything was just as smooth as I could get it. So it's a beautiful kitchen. I love it.
Now let's get to the art. I mean, I find this sort of experience where people have an experience in like Chris Bledsoe, where they suddenly run out and they got to get art supplies and they start painting they've never painted. When did you start your drawings and stuff like that? Did you do it before your major experience in 1972?
Well, I'd always been doing art since I was a kid. It excelled. I excelled in it since I was very young.
Okay.
And this was an elder of an Indian tribe that I did. I called it Wisdom of the Ages because I liked the character in her face and all the wrinkles and everything. And I thought the stuff that has character like that, like tree bark and stuff, really comes across well in pointillism or stippling.
You do this with a lot of yours seem to be like pencil drawings?
No, they're not pencil. It's pen and ink.
Okay, it's pen and ink.
And
okay.
It's all done in little dots. It's a form of impressionism. And some people call it pointillism, but pointillism actually is done with a brush. These are done with a pen.
Okay.
A very fine point pen.
And how long would it take to do something like this?
Well, it depends, because I take breaks sometimes for a month or two and then go back to it. There's one picture that took me 4 years from the start to the finish. But generally something like this, if I work at it steadily, can be done within a month or two.
How do you choose what you're doing? Do you get inspired?
I get inspired, but often I find photographs that have been done of characters or animals that I like. And sometimes I make like a board where I use a piece of cardboard and I stick things on it and kind of arrange it the way I want it. And then I work from that to design the piece.
Wow.
And
Do you have a particular connection to the Native Americans?
I do, actually. My great grandmother was Native American.
Hmm.
And a French combination.
Beautiful.
Do you have a connection to nature? You have a lot of nature photographs, and a lot of UFO people will have this connection to nature and saving the environment and stuff. You have a nature.
I love nature. I used to hike a lot when I was younger. Not so much now, but I've always had a connection to nature, and I love cats, and especially the big cats like this. This was called the Sentry. There's actually another one I did of the same cat in a reclining position on a branch.
If Candace is here, that kitty cat reminded me of Candace's lion face with the third eye that we discussed the other day.
Yep.
I'm seeing similarities. Beautiful.
This was done with colored pencils.
Wow.
And it's on a white
That's
background.
amazing.
So the parts that are white I kind of worked around it to leave the white parts exposed. And the rest is all done in colored pencil. That one I called the Nutcracker.
And so how long would it take for something like this? This looks like a lot of work.
Well, actually the colored pencil drawings go a lot quicker. You can do them within a day or two.
Wow.
And but the pointillism or stippling take a lot longer because I use a very fine pen. And so you really have to exercise a lot of patience to get through it. But it's worth it because it can produce amazing realistic results.
Is this from a photograph or real life or your imagination or?
This one I did from a photograph. I try to choose photographs that aren't that people aren't going to recognize and say, I saw that on the cover of such and such magazine or whatever. I try to keep to photographs that aren't widely publicized and work from them. But if you saw the actual photograph, it would appear quite a bit different from this because of the way I've arranged the leaves and the background and different things and the shading.
It's from a photograph and it looks like a photograph. I always accuse Doug Holt of doing that.
Yeah.
Photographs. So come on, that's a photograph. Come on.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. This one, I went into an antique store one day and I found a picture of a woman at a well, or a spring like that. And I was intrigued by it, but it was very badly faded and I couldn't see the image all that well. So I bought the picture, I think, for about $3. And I took some of my wife's clear nail polish at the time and I went over the whole picture with it. And it suddenly brought out all the reality of all the images that were faded came into full view. I could see them nice and clear. And this woman, the original image of this woman was similar, but I shaved off about 40 pounds or so of her, and I made her face look more feminine because the person in the picture was not all that pleasing. You know?
Wow, incredible.
Yeah. This was part of a series that I started doing about animals in and musical instruments, particularly birds and musical instruments. And this one I called the Blue Note. That's my saxophone that I actually did that in pointillism or stippling. And I took the image of this younger blue jay and plopped him on the bell section there. And the Blue Note was born.
Wow. Now, we've talked about this before, and I think Alan sort of asked the question, what's your take on experiencers having a lot of experiencers who have a connection to art, to music, that kind of stuff? Have you ever thought about that kind of stuff, whether your art and your music has anything to do with your experiences as a little boy with your father with the ship?
Well, I think it's because basically I'm a right brain person, a very creative person, and that's the dominant part of my brain. And I think the beings are attracted to right brain people. I think you had this discussion with Richard Dolan and his wife one time.
Yeah, I think the guy who did the alien implants, Roger Lear, the 17 alien implants, they asked him what's common with all experience. He said, there's only one thing scientifically I've been able to verify. They're all right brain creative people, and Hollywood is full of them.
Yep.
What do you think about the Rh negative blood type? Do you think that has anything to do with it?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that.
The Rh negative blood type?
Oh, well, I'm O positive.
Okay.
I'm Rh negative. I think you may have something with that. Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
You when you see you've probably done it. You've seen where they ask in the audience, and there's a lot more hands than the 7% or whatever it is that go up. But
right.
it's kind of interesting. I like the music thing, the number of experiencers who are musicians and this thing, that's where we're going to run this thing with art, because when we put this thing up when Nicole and I put it up on Facebook, I mean, we just got absolutely inundated with people, artists who have had experiences, and there is a connection. So I think you're right with the right brain thing, that you're open to it. There's a lot more psychics, intuitives, all these kind of things, and that's who they're tapping into, or they help train people get this stuff. So
that would basically account for both the art and musical abilities.
Yeah.
I do think the Rh negative is a modification that allows maybe more receptors or something. My mother's a Rh negative, and she's creative and probably had abductions of her own. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm not so sure about the blood types, but anyway.
I love this guy right here.
Yeah, this is Rigel. He's been kind of the common denominator in all my experiences, or most of them.
I get a good feeling.
Yeah, he was the leader that, actually, he was the one that I believe sent me here. If you listen to my pre-birth experience.
It's in your book. He's the one you gave him your little flute.
Yeah, I gave him one of my recorders.
So he still got it.
Yeah, it's probably in some alien museum in space somewhere. But
my kids go to Catholic school, and I went to Catholic school, and I think that's the only instrument that we're allowed to use beside the organ.
There's a woman named Trisha McCannon. She's a speaker. She used to channel a being named Rigel. So I don't know if it's the same Rigel or not, but.
Well, I believe these beings came from Orion, and Rigel is actually the name of a star in the Orion constellation.
Okay.
Well, what's with the symbol? Was that symbol on his uniform?
I believe it was, or a symbol very similar to that. I've had a lot of people ask me about that symbol. When I went under hypnosis in Toronto, the Canadian UFO Research Network, one of the members asked me, did they have a kind of symbol? And I remembered this symbol being on the right breast in the shoulder area, and possibly also on the shoulders themselves. but mainly on the front. And under hypnosis, the guy from Q4 asked the hypnotist if he could take control for a minute. She handed the control over to him. And he said, I want you to zoom in on that symbol. And when you zoom in on it, at the count of 3, you'll see it very clear, because I'm going to ask you to draw it afterwards. And he did that. And mentally, I just zoomed in on it. And that's what I could see. Now, the stars may have been slightly different or in different positions. I don't know, but that's mainly what came to mind when he said that, when I was under hypnosis. And that's what I drew afterwards.
Now, people should know that you dealt with Bud Hopkins. You've done a lot of regression to recover your memory. So your book is based upon a lot of work. You did a lot of work to go back and refill in all the things that you didn't remember, correct?
Yeah, over a dozen regressions, at least a dozen, probably more. And 3 of them were done in Manhattan. 2 were done by Dr. Aphrodite Clamar, who is the hypnotist that did most of the cases in Bud's book, Missing Time. And the 3rd one, she was ill, but Bud had a key to her office, and she offered him the use of her office if he would want to do the 3rd session himself, which he did. So he did the 3rd hypnosis session on me. Unfortunately, the placement of the mic wasn't correct for the one that he did, so it came out all muffled and you couldn't make any sense of it. But the first 2 that Dr. Clamar did with me, we recorded them on cassette, and I've transcribed them and put them in my book. And
you're doing a 2nd book, correct?
I'm thinking about it. I don't know. Yeah.
That's usually what we always encourage. Getting an experiencer who's got a really good story, and I always force them to do a book, and then they suddenly decide, oh, that's kind of cool, and then they want to do another book. So I'm glad you're getting it out there, because you've got one of the top 10 stories, I think, in ufology in terms of being really, really interesting.
Right. Now, this is a color pointillism, or stippling. This is done with different colored inks, and it's hard to tell from the picture here. Some of the parts look grayish, but if you were actually going to zoom in on those parts, you'd see they're made up of multiple colors. But overall, it appears gray. And the color stipplings take a lot longer to do. Sorry, did you lose me there?
No, you're here. No.
The color stipplings take a lot longer to do because they're done in layers of color that I go over the whole thing maybe 4 or 5 different times, depending on how many colors I use.
Wow.
And the sky was kind of a matrix of wine colored and blue.
Beautiful, beautiful. This is the one I like the best. This is the one you originally sent me when I went, oh my goodness, can this guy draw?
Yeah, that's probably my most recent one. And it's called Return of the Sacred Feminine. And it was inspired by a lot of things. It's more spiritually inspired.
I love that one. It reminds me of more like a Lilith.
Yeah, well, it's actually based on a Russian opera singer named Anna Trebko. And I had a real crush on her, and I kind of had this spurt where I got into opera for a little while, and because I loved her voice. She had a beautiful voice.
And go ahead.
Yeah, and so when I did this, I started with the image of her, and then I did this orb around her, and then she was looking at something, and I thought there has to be a focal point that I have her looking at. So I thought I'd use a rose, and I looked through hundreds of pictures of roses before I came up with this one. This is a composite of a main rose with a couple of buds underneath it, and then I had to have her hold it. So I went through hundreds of pictures of hands to find the right shape of a female hand to to hold the rows. And so it took a lot of research to do this one. And then the hummingbird was kind of an afterthought that I felt just kind of was the crowning touch to the picture. You know?
She looks
It's
like
funny.
she's coming through a portal and just picking a
Yeah.
single flower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Steve, I seem to recall an email I received from Nicole and Grant, perhaps, regarding hummingbirds. Wasn't there something about hummingbirds being the protectors of nature, correct? Grant, is that right?
I think it was the protector of the forest. Chris Bledsoe.
Protector of the forest.
He would have to go.
That's right.
Right.
That's where I got. That's where I sort of first got that idea was when I visited Chris. He had the experience where he had the awakening in 2007. And the first thing he sort of did was not really tell anybody about it. He went to the paint shop, never painted before. He got a bunch of canvases and paint, and he started painting, and he has all these hummingbirds on the wall. So when I went to see him, that's when I said, well, what's with the hummingbirds, Chris? It's like all these hummingbirds. And he's got this thing with hummingbirds. He actually, on the Facebook, he actually posts one of the hummingbird photos on the link to that Facebook posting. And Colin Andrews also does hummingbirds. He's got a thing with hummingbirds. And so does a local guy here by name of Mark Olson, who knew Chris very well, had this experience with a hummingbird in Phoenix. So there's a lot. In fact, we were at this cottage. I was with Chris Bledsoe in Pennsylvania, and I was away from the cottage. I was walking away, and I came back, and he said, Grant, you missed it. You should have been here. The hummingbird was here. And he has the hummingbird, comes and sits right in front of him for like 10 minutes. And I'd always was fascinated with this story. And I just happened to be someplace else when this happened. It actually happened when I was there. So there is this weird connection to hummingbirds, as much as there is owls and rabbits and deer, and there's all these different things. So you said it just came in at the end. It just sort of popped in.
Yeah, it was just kind of an afterthought. I needed something to sort of balance out the picture a little bit, and that just fit the bill perfectly.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned, Steve, that what did you call this piece again?
Return of the Sacred Feminine.
Return of the Sacred Feminine. So that seems to resonate with this idea that hummingbirds might be some, maybe literally or symbolically keepers of nature or the forest or something. So that's another one of these synchronicities. Very excellent work, Steve. I have to say too, I've been familiar with your story for a long time, and I'm like like a fanboy over here, thinking when I realized who you were, I saw you joined Steve, and I saw your face, and I thought, I know this guy from somewhere.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah.
This is one of Chris Bledsoe's hummingbird photo paintings that he did.
Oh yeah.
This is shortly after he had the experience in 2007. And here's
hummingbirds do come up quite often. And I think in our Doug interview, I think I shared the story about the sun singer that's up at it used to be an estate, and now it's kind of like a protected park. And part of this tour that you can go on is they have an entire hummingbird garden, and it's planted with all these plants that hummingbirds love. And if you can go in there and have a moment, you will get surrounded by hundreds of hummingbirds, and you can hear them zipping past, and they almost chitter and chirp. It's like, ee, ee.
No, they go, they meet.
Yeah.
They go, meep.
Yeah, and it's almost like you feel them trying to talk with you. It's such an amazing experience when you're around by that many of them. It's incredible. And I can see why people have thought that they're fairies or that they're kind of interdimensional in some ways. And they're so fast. That's what gets me. They're just so incredibly fast. And it's wonderful when they visit you.
And science can't figure out how their wings can go that fast. They don't know how that happens. That's what
There's a place in Niagara Falls, actually. I think they call it the greenhouse, and it's kind of a botanical gardens inside, and they have hummingbirds in there, and they fly around while you're looking at all the plants. It's pretty cool.
It is.
The name of this photograph is pretty. I don't see it on the screen, but what's the name of this one? It's a pretty interesting name.
That was called Perfect Perch. Now,
Perfect Perch.
I can't see the whole image on my screen. I don't know.
No, I sort of expanded it to, because it was sort of like a half image, but a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So I made it bigger, but it is the full instrument. Yeah.
Okay. But I have like an eastern bluebird sitting on the mouthpiece there. And he just seems comfortably perched there. And I was thinking perfect pitch. And then I thought, well, perfect perch, you know? And that's how I came up with it. And that's my open hole flute, one of the many flutes I have.
You still play?
Yeah. Yeah, I still play. I don't play the sax as often because it's so loud and I can't play it in an apartment. So I can't practice it here. But my main instrument is still the tenor recorder and alto recorder. I have large wooden ones that I use that, not like the little ones that the kids play, but I've got a collection of about 32 different recorders, tenors, and I've got a big bass one that looks like a table leg, stands about 4 feet high.
Wow.
And I just love the sound of the wood, the way it resonates much better than the plastic ones and sounds much more professional. And although they may seem like a simple instrument that kids play, some of the tenor ones that I have would, on today's market, would cost around $4,000 or $5,000. So they're not cheap little instruments like people kind of think they are, you know. And they just sound beautiful. This is called what did I call this one now? Anyway, it'll come back to me. But I used 3 different pictures of wolves, and I kind of placed them on a cardboard. And some of them I had to blow them up with a photocopier to get them to be the right scale for the picture. And then the moon was a picture of the moon that I got from an atlas, so it's actually correct. And it just appears that there's a crater where the highest wolf is howling, and it looks like it's his breath coming off it, but it's actually the crater on the moon. Wow. And then the plants in the foreground, the piece of driftwood was in my garden in the front of my house, and the leafy plant over to the left is a wigelia bush that was growing in my backyard, and the rock that the one wolf is standing on was in my aquarium. So I used images from all over the place, and the trees basically came from my mind.
Wow.
And the bush. And this is another wolf that I did looking face on. I like to draw animals looking directly at you because it kind of communicates more with you. There was one that I did of a Florida panther that we'll probably get to a little further down. That one. My dad said that one sent shivers up his spine when he'd look at it. It was like he felt that this animal was considering eating him. And it kind of scared him a bit. But you can see how it's stippling the bark on the tree that was coming away. It lends itself to that kind of an imagery very well. And the ferns in the background came from my mind, and up to the upper left, there's a falls, and that's actually English Falls in Owen Sound. And I sat on the top of that falls one time, and when I was on a hike. So people that have seen that have recognized English Falls from that area. And this was one called Blue Heron. It was from a picture that I took of a lake up near Havelock, where my uncle has a cabin. And I went for a walk in the bush and I came upon this lake and took that picture. And when I looked at it, it seemed to be calling out for a heron. So I put one in. I just added him in there.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
That's another color point, Liz, or Tiffany. This one, I'm having trouble remembering the name of this too, but it's a young puma that's crossing a birch fallen tree over the water. And in the background, this one's kind of enlarged too, but in the background, there's an Indian wearing a headdress. And it's kind of my attempt at concealing art within art. Kind of.
Wow, that's cool. Okay. Well, okay, so that's the end of yours.
Right.
What are you working on now?
Well, I'm not working on anything at the moment. I'm trying to decide what to do for my next project, whether I should make it another book or do some artwork or do another CD of music.
Wow. I think we should work on the book. So and the music.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do one on music sometime as well, because and I encourage people to read your book because you have a very interesting case and it's fairly documented and one of only 3 in the world where an entire band was abducted. So
Right.
I want to hear that story so badly. So I will definitely be checking it out.
I want to know why you call it firewall. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's a kind of a veil that separates us from the supernatural.
Right.
And I got the idea from the book, The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot.
Mm.
And he suggests that we're living in like a holographic simulation. And so I thought, well, rather than call it a veil, it might be more appropriate to call it a firewall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It is an incredible story, especially when you see 2 million hits on a YouTube video. It takes a while to tell the story, but it's one of the better stories out there. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
And now to last but not least, April Dyck, who's you're on the island, on Vancouver Island, correct?
I am on Vancouver Island, and so it's like a dual world. We're going to be looking at art that I have basically never shown anybody publicly, like I do it for my own personal thing, and the work behind me is what I make available to the public. So yeah, so what are we looking at here? We're going to start right off with the drawing. So all my pencil drawings of interdimensional beings and UFOs are based from photographs. So this particular thing was there was actually 2, and the drawing of I don't know, I can't make this stuff up. Anyways, it's like 2 inches big, and there was 2 of them, and they were flying around my house. So I took a photo, and then I encourage artists to do this too. Is when you because often artists can see more than the average person. So I draw them so I can get more detail and determine what the heck am I really looking at. I have no idea. So, and I have quite a sense of humor about my art too. So there was a drawing challenge. Someone said, draw something under your bed. So I said, okay. And so I came up with this broom.
That is fantastic.
So
this is amazing, because I swear this comes from not just an artistic mind, but somebody who is being bombarded with otherworldly visitations. You're like, okay, you know what? You're swept out tonight. We're gonna clean it up and prepare for the next visitation.
So it's kind of like on frequency again. So 432 hertz, carrier sweep the out of your house, under your bed. So that's my sense of humor.
Very Very funny.
I like doing that. So
Oh, we're going to show some of your photos now.
you're going to show
That's where they are
photos.
under the bed.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize you were going to do that.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I want to show because people don't know you. They don't know sort of your background story. I just want to, because you showed me some photos and this one video I want to play, which I thought was well narrated, that you just took recently to show that you do have some experiences. And we will do a full length interview with you. But you sent me these photos, and I say these have only happened since 2015. And these are these beam photographs that people all around the world are taking, and they're showing them to me. And you had these are taken outside your place. This is a security.
Yeah,
camera.
so there you can see me in the entrance of the garage with my flashlight going, I don't want to go out there. Because I'm seeing these but you know, these light beams are often, and they go on animals, and it doesn't seem to cause any harm. So I really don't know what they are, but
And
they
this
are.
one, so it moves over.
I have lots of.
Are these from a security camera, by the way?
Trail cameras.
Okay. Okay.
Because they're not Wi-Fi connected, and they date stamp, and I love them.
This takes place over about 5 minutes, right?
So,
we're coming to the good one. The fourth one is the big one.
yeah, that one's pretty. I'm no longer there. If you notice, I don't know where I am now. I was in the garage. I was in the entrance, and now I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, I see the time. I looked at the timestamp. It's about 5 minutes, I think, between the first and the last one.
Okay,
But the last one is the most amazing one. This one here.
Yeah,
This
that's
one.
fine.
That's just incredible.
Yeah. So some people have looked at it and they think it's a vortex. My impression is a light person. I see this kind of thing all the time, and you'll see that in my artwork. But I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm really grateful to be able to get a photograph of it, because I'm sure a lot of other people are seeing these things. So yeah.
Now let me see if I can. Oh, I can't. Oh shoot! I gotta stop the screen. What the heck? I won't be able to show your video here.
Oh.
I love that image, because I feel like there is an entity coming down and is basically maybe a different frequency than what we vibrate at. And I feel like that one it's just like a freeze frame of energy. I like that a lot.
I can't go to the screen to play the video, but I'll play the video at the very end. Once I stop the share screen, I'll play your video, because it's pretty impressive. And you only took that video a month ago or something?
It was in the summer.
It was in the summer. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
No.
Okay, let's go with some of your photos. There you go.
Okay, so this I put personal collection because I never really thought I would share them with anybody, but I have to process my experience, and how I do that is through art. So what we're looking at is light people, a lot like that photograph that we just looked at. Same kind of concept, and what they're doing is working on controls. So there's a vertical column, and that's my imagination. And then gifts from the light people. Maybe it's an unconscious type painting, and quite often I'll use lines. It's kind of like an automatic drawing after I finish the piece of work. And what I'm trying to describe is how we're all connected, that we're all one. So I like it.
Can I mention something on the left-hand side? The light people at the controls.
Yeah.
That really looks like a very religious type painting or drawing. I feel like there's a being of power in the center with that center golden orb, and then the others are there in support of it.
Yeah, I think what I was thinking at the time is that there's like a glass tube type thing with energy, like a center column, and you don't have to actually need knobs to operate. You can just use your hands, your energy. So that's what I get.
And that is what people describe to me. I've got 50 people who say, you put your hand on a ball, you put your hand on a pad, you put your hand on a flat panel, and the craft is alive. You become one with the craft, and whatever you think is what the craft does. So that
Right.
seems to fit in with what you're showing here. This idea of oneness, that it's all, you become one with
Yeah.
the craft, and it's all one thing.
And these interdimensional things that are beings or people, they don't necessarily have our 3D form, I'm finding. So that's my, it's my year of discovery, I have to say.
I love those. They look very reminiscent of stained glass windows to me.
Yes. Yeah. And maybe that's
And-
why it seems so religious to me.
Oh, me-
Maybe like even just seeing the fractures of each individual piece, it gives you that impression that you're looking through to see, you know, what's on the other side. Like, I think Steve described it as the veil. Like, I get that impression that you're seeing past through whatever that separation is.
I think
It's beautiful.
I think so. So what we're looking at here is a photograph of, I live on Vancouver Island. I have second oak growth forest, little section, and I go up there to meditate. I know I was up there meditating, praying, and I turned around and I just took a photo. I had a feeling, you know, you get that feeling. And so strangely enough, this photo shows like a central column, like a portal or vortex, and maybe even a face. I can kind of see a face, but it's up to interpretation. But Deborah Warren is a friend of mine. I got connected with her because of all my UFO experiences. And so she came out to teach me how to do CE5. So I had CE5 training, and we were out at night and we were doing this meditation. We were out by the pond. And this is a memory. So what happened was like 30 light people, these I call them light people, showed up, and she was encouraging them to come forward. She had a green scarf, and she was encouraging them to come forward. And two of them actually did come to her, and one looked at her camera, and one was behind her. And Deborah doesn't remember anything about the light people being there, but I recorded it, and there was like orbs in the trees and all kinds of things happened. It was really great to know that we have the power. They want to communicate, and we can encourage it. You know, we can do it. So yeah, I like that painting a lot. Yeah. So this is an event that happened in March of this year. I was in the house watching a YouTube video, and all of a sudden I felt an SOS. SOS. So I ran outside. What's the SOS? And I saw the lower corner. It's a really bad photo of, but I saw this ship over the trees, and I thought, what the heck? So I ran back in the house, get my cell phone, and I got really bad photos. But as I was looking at this thing, and we're looking up at it, so we're looking at the bottom of it with the 3 lights in the front. It didn't make any sound. It was hovering over the trees, and then all of a sudden this big blue orb out of nowhere came flying out of the top of the trees, went right into the ground, like it went right into the field, disappeared. And then this vehicle just left, and I never seen it before. I don't know what it is. So again, that's why I encourage other artists, you know, we have more of a trained eye, so we can, you know, describe what we're photographing. I'm trying. Yeah. So I call that the blue orb, and I see a lot of blue orbs. I rarely get to photograph them. So this is another interdimensional being, and this was really cool. I was outside, and you know, I get this feeling. It's like a feeling that comes over me, and I put my camera up, and I took a photo, and I have a blog with the photo is in the blog, and what it was is like the space folded out. It was like the space folded out, and this entity kind of appeared, but it wasn't fully formed. And I was looking at that picture over and over, and I finally just had to sit down and try to figure out what I was looking at. So maybe it's eyeballs, maybe, I don't know. but it's really cool looking. That's for sure. Yeah.
How often do you have experiences? Like, how often are you seeing stuff? Pretty often, I think.
Oh, yeah. I live it, I think. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what is your take on the connection between art and UFOs? Are you sort of like chosen, or are you more open because you're artistic, right-brained? What's your interpretation?
I don't know. I've always been a lifelong artist since kindergarten, and I don't do landscapes or, I've gone through a whole process. I wanted to go to university to study art, but I ended up being practical and choosing a different career, and I traveled all over the country doing it. But I've always done art and sketchbooks but I've never done UFO related art.
Yeah, you get a lot of commissions, right?
I have gotten commissions.
And you get more than a peppermint, right?
I try to raise my revenue. I've done this for over 50 years, so I think yeah.
Yeah, you told me when we were in Toronto, you were telling me about some of the commissions, and usually artists are sort of starving, but you seem to be surviving. So
well, no, this year's been really hard for all artists. I have not been able to do any public shows. I did a virtual art show in November, and so I guess that's the way the trend is going to be. So what we're looking at here is a painting I did a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, of, again, imagination. What UFO is a cross section. So what my imagination again shows is a glass type tube, self generating energy for this craft. It doesn't need much. So it's like blue plasma flowing through. Yeah. So thank you for letting me share this photo. I never thought I'd share. So now the next one beside it, maybe the similar thing, because this guy, I see so many UFOs. I call this one Blinky. Now Blinky kind of looks like a bullet. I did this drawing from a photograph. And so he's got like this energy wheel in front, and he's got like this energy kind of in this central part, and orbs go in and out, and he doesn't have to be visible, but he likes to blink. That's why I call him Blinky, and I'm sure lots of people see this craft. So
he may be the one on your video. We're going to show your video at the end here.
I don't think I have a video of that one, but I will. I'm going to try from now on to get one. Okay, so here is another imagination images that I quite often I'll have to get stuff out of my brain. I'll have something in my mind, and I just have to get it on canvas, and I can forget about it. So this is kind of like portals in my imagination, black holes. What would it be like to go and travel in outer space? What would it look like? You jump from one section of space to another. Like, you don't have to go all this way. And then I was thinking about, well, maybe there's guards or assistants at these portals. Anyways, it's something fun. They're really cool, though. I like them.
Now, Grant, I don't know if you remember seeing, there was a picture that my daughter did that sort of had that imagery of the black hole and then all of the light around it. Did you see that image? I know we didn't post it on here, but Maddie created that with acrylic paint, and she did it when she was 6 years old. They had a competition at Wallops, which is a NASA at Wallops Field.
Oh yeah.
And she won first place in this competition, and it was very similar to what April just showed. So I don't know if you can pull that picture up at the end, maybe.
I remember it in the email. So
it's called Eye in the Sky, and it.
I remember the NASA email, but
yes.
I don't think I opened the NASA email. It was.
Yes, that's what it was. It was from a competition that she won. It was a nationwide art search, and she won first place when she was 6 years old. So, but it's very similar to what April was just showing, and I think it's amazing that they are so similar.
Wow. Okay. We will make sure we link it, or we put it on when we post it, because Nicole will be posting this, and we will show it, because I don't know if I'll be able to get to the email, but we will show it in the next session. We can maybe even have you back, or we'll put your description in there, because I remember the email, and that's and the portal thing is, I mean, it's off topic, but I think if they have any technology I've dealt with the highest levels, I think they may have some sort of portal understanding. I'm not sure they have anti-gravity, but the portal thing seems to be the bottom line as to what's going on here.
We can include these paintings in our portal panel discussion that we do next.
Yeah, okay. So continue, April.
Okay, thank you. So these two drawings I have photographs of, and they're in my blog. So this one, the first one, again, I call it the scientist ship. It appeared in October, late October. Outside my kitchen window, I could see it. It was humongous. And I said, I'm not going out to take your picture. I'm kind of like not so eager to be a, UFO freak. But so it just stood there and stood there and stood there. So finally I went and took a photo of it. And I had the privilege of having R. Keith Andrews for dinner. He came to Vancouver Island, and he looked at that and he said, "Oh, that's the scientist ship." So that's why I call it that. So
that's Nicole's friend.
Yeah, I love R. Keith.
Yeah.
I'm on with him.
Well,
I've been on 4 or 5 times with him now.
So he said that is the scientist ship. So maybe it's a bank of windows in the center, great big tubey things underneath, and yeah, fascinating.
So let us know about your blog site. What's your blog site? Because we want to link it.
Oh, sure. I from my different mentors, they encouraged me to do a blog, and it's April Dyck, which paranormal.wordpress.com.
Okay. Beautiful.
And so I have here this strange white object, and there was actually 2 of them side by side, quite a distance, and I really don't know what I'm looking at, but there was like this golden light streak. You can see the top and the bottom of it, and then just over from the streak, you'll see these white objects. I have no idea, but they're really fascinating looking. And I think it's a real benefit to do the drawings with the photographs, because then it's like people say, artists can see more detail. So I think it's going to be kind of my pet project.
Why do you think they don't look like classic ones?
Like classic what?
Like people say, like a flying saucer, or like we did a thing on triangles.
I see mini flying saucers, foot big, and so they're there too. Yeah. But they're only this big. So I don't know.
These look like multi-dimensional shapes, like the way hypercubes kind of overlap sometimes.
Yeah, maybe, maybe. I wonder about that too. I talked to Rebecca Hardcastle-Wright, and she said that maybe I'm seeing more of the 5th dimension than other people. I don't know.
Yeah.
So here's just an artist concept. How do these, I hear about these drakes and reptilians. I don't think I've ever met them. So, I was trying to figure out how they would travel around. So I came up with a torso field. There's the screen, and I don't know, this drake thinks he's king, and the reptilian, he's got like a screen, and apparently he can just pull anything out of it. That's really fascinating. So I don't know, imagination. That's all.
Do you have any recall being on ships?
Like I said, this is my year of discovery. So I went under one hypnosis session, and I completely forgot everything I said. I have to keep on looking at the video to remember what I said. So.
Well, get it ready for when we do the interview. We need all those details.
Oh. So this is, I did this painting a couple years ago. So it's an instructional painting for me. So how do you dimension travel? And I was always told, lead with your right foot, go with your right foot. You know, you get your plasma body out and you get out there. And so, yeah, it's fun. Yeah, lead with your right foot. Very important. So this is public art that I have on my personal art website. These are what I make available to the public, and I'm not really to the public. The artist community in my very conservative small town, they don't get it, so I don't even, you know. The blue one is called Astral Travel, and again, R. Keith Andrews, he was here at my house, and he looked at that, and he goes, "You described astral travel perfectly." And I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, it goes like this." And I go, "Yeah, I think it does." So I like that one. And then
it almost looks like the balls again, all these balls going into the center of the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the one beside it, Morphogenesis. So I went through a personal tragedy, losing my husband. So I had a lot of feelings to process, and this painting is one of them. It's called Morphogenesis. So it's a birth of energy.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of fun doing that. So so you can see I have two kind of art worlds happening. What I have, you know, but now it's all out there.
I love the one with the blue. It reminds me of sort of like The Abyss, the movie The Abyss, and all of the water surrounding you. It makes me feel comforted.
You know, I do not watch movies.
Mhm.
I've never watched Star Wars. I can't watch anything violent. And so I'm kind of glad because I have a clear conscience. I don't have any preconceived, you know, what things are supposed to look like. I think, you know, I'm glad I don't have that influence. So these two paintings, I paint a lot of angels, and I love painting angels. And I had an intervention from my deceased husband. He told me to stop painting angels. So I just changed the form of them. I still did. So there's the Army of Angels, and again, it's like the flow. I do like that. The second one, Wait for Me, is a personal painting. It's kind of a spiritual thing, you know. Revelations talks about this big thing that's going to come down and get us, and I'm like, "Oh, wait for me," because like apparently it's the dead people going first, right? So that's my sense of humor. Yeah.
So are those the souls rising up into the heavens?
It's a graveyard. Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. It's like
I like the way that feels.
I think Revelations, you know, inspired me to do that painting. So
Okay, just one question to Nicole. Do you recognize the photo on the left?
You know, I've seen so many vortex-ish looking ones, and it's interesting.
What about the things in the front? We saw it the other night. I'm going to show you the photo in a second here.
Right. And I think, you know, I keep thinking they look like little toes right now, but yes, I did recognize the shape. It does in a few of her, I think, coming up photos, her refugees and refugees in moonlight, all these similar being shapes we've seen too.
On the left, like the heads on the left, and this is Doug Alt's photo that we interviewed the other night. On the right, when I saw it, I went, "Oh, that's Doug Alt's photo." It's like,
yeah. Well, and it's like their attention is drawn somewhere, you know, and that's what Doug was saying about his men in the hats looking, and that's what these beings in the line, they look like their attention is drawn towards whatever is at the end of that vortex or through it. Amazing.
Now let me see if I can pull up the video here now.
That was a photograph you're saying of Doug's with the light being in the middle?
He painted that with the heads.
Yeah.
And you'll see we did an interview, he described that. So now let me show the photo. Well, I've got to share the screen again. Okay. Let me close this to make sure it doesn't open again. I'm going to show you, this is April's video, which I thought was really cool. Share screen. Oh, come on. Where's Desta when you need her?
She's watching for USOs in Florida.
Yeah, or she got stung by one of those those ray things. Okay. So I got a share screen. Share screen. And then we want to go to the video. Come on.
You could pull the video up first and then share the screen.
Okay, hang on.
Fireball shit.
Let's try it again. Okay, let me try again. Let's pull the video up first. But then it's going to start playing. I got to move. Oh, okay. Now share screen.
So, and I have still photos on my blog of this event. It was a really impressive event, and it lasted a long time. Other people got photographs of it too. And
okay, so can you see the little screen there?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's well narrated. I just love the narration to this thing.
I sound like a goof. Come on. It was overpowering me.
You're standing along a highway here, right?
Yeah, I'm standing in my driveway going, what the heck is that? Yes.
Wow.
In Vancouver, is that it? Okay. Vancouver Island.
Yeah. You gonna put the sound on or no?
Yeah, the sound is on, I think.
Okay.
Well, maybe
going in and out between Mount Edward Albert and this front mountain range. That was a car going by. This is a very big light, independent of the mountain. You see my driveway. And hello, what are you guys doing?
I love it.
You I've never seen before. You're very large and bright.
Did it just pop out? Did it just disappear?
Yeah,
It's bright.
then she says, not so bright now. Not so bright now.
Wow.
And that's what my mentors are telling me to do. It's like talk to them, and I tell them, come on over here, and yeah.
So what are those artifacts, April, that are showing up on the screen as you're watching?
As I was taking the video, it was really hard for me to take the video because the energy from this thing was really overpowering, and you can hear it in my voice. And it wasn't until a car went by that snapped me out, and then I obviously sound coherent.
Edward Albert.
Yeah, I'm just talking about there's some stuff that comes up on the screen. I'm guessing that's part of your camera. Maybe your camera is introducing those artifacts. You see them once in a while. There's like a rectangle, and there's some other light, and then there was another thing that popped up over to the right.
Oh, yeah, there's a farm across the street.
Yeah, are those just part of your camera artifacts? I'm guessing. See, like that one right there. See
Yeah,
that?
that's the farm across the street. So
it's a farm across the street. Oh, interesting. Okay.
What are you guys doing?
Yeah, a lot of people. This happened around 11 p.m. Lots and lots of people have seen. I looked for reports. Nothing.
Never seen before.
I have great photos.
How low in the sky was it?
It was a really long event. Maybe
not so bright now.
Over 10 minutes.
No, I mean, how low in the sky was the object?
It was fascinating. It went behind the mountain, and it came up out behind the mountain, and it would glow. The whole it's Mount. I looked it up. Mount Edward Albert. So it would go behind the mountain range, and you could see it glow. And when it came up, the light shoot right across, and the trees in the back were all illuminated. Fantastic. And then some other things happened, which I have on my blog. So yeah.
Wow. Don't feel silly about talking to them, because I talk, scream, sing, dance, cry, all of the above.
Yeah.
I think it does have an impact.
Trail cams have been really great. I recommend them. I never knew that I had 2-inch UFOs come out of my kitchen window until I had a trail cam. So they're infrared, they're date stamped, you know, everything about them are great. So after March event with the Blue Orb thing, I said, okay guys, I'm not taking your photos anymore. No. So they started showing up on my trail cams. So someone bought me a GoPro to wear. Because so much happens around me that, you know.
Wonderful.
And you're right by the Air Force Base. There's not many Air Force bases in Canada, but you're right beside one of the big Air Force bases in Canada, right?
Vancouver Island has quite a few bases. Yeah.
Alan, I was wondering if you got a chance to see April's mandalas, that a few of them are behind her. And I've tuned into your show a few times and caught people like Phil Gruber speaking on mandalas and the effect that they can have. Yeah, April, can you describe how your mandala art kind of unfolds for you?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Nick, pointing that out. Yeah.
This is so you can get a closer view.
Beautiful.
You know what this is? This is a album, a record.
Oh, really?
And I take a song from the record and I use that as my inspiration. And I never know what colors I'm going to use. I never know the pattern. I don't use a pattern. I just go for it. And this is easily like 6 hours work. And what I'm doing is working with color and frequency and creating new colors by putting colors on top of colors. It's so exciting. I really love doing these. And
am I right in thinking, are they the vinyl that you use, are they all love songs?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
My deceased husband had all these records and I just didn't know what to do with them. And it just came to me one day while painting on them. I said, okay. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is that's an amazing story. I love the mandalas as well. I've made maybe only 2, and one of them I gave to this woman named Rebecca Girasitano, who is a regression therapist and past life regressions, and she does hypnotherapy. She is a MUFON contact in our region, but the mandala is amazing, and the way that you can sit and focus and try to access different parts of your brain and spirit and soul and you know, consciousness is amazing. You did a fantastic job on that one, especially.
Well, Grant, that's how Tibetans use the mandala as a way of focusing consciousness. And
it is a form of meditation. Absolutely. It is. And it's, yeah, I just really love them. And I started last winter because it was really cold and I couldn't be in my studio. So. But, yeah, and so I've expanded even to now going to bigger canvases. So I pictured them 4 foot by 4 foot. I haven't quite got there. But a lot of my work is always formulating in my mind. I mean, I can copy anything. That's not hard. But to create something that's never been seen before is more fun for me. You know, people say, why don't you do landscapes? I said, take a photo. You know? A tree's a tree, right? So
I think Phil,
that's me. So
Phil
yeah.
Gruber said it pretty well. I think somebody, was asking him to interpret all these mandalas that he was showing and, oh, what's this one mean? What's that one mean? And then he was like, it doesn't really matter what it means. Just stare at it. It'll do its job. It'll unlock what it needs to unlock and you'll gain a higher awakening from it. So I liked that scope of mandalas. You don't have to necessarily know every symbolism behind each shape. It's as a
Like
whole.
crop circles. I think crop circles work on our subconscious mind. Just like with some other, like the Sri Yantra 9 intersecting triangles, the union of the yin yang, male, female coming together as a point of focus. So they're subconscious also. So I think they're working on us.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I believe you're right, Alan. I think I depend more on my subconscious than I know.
Right. That's the whole value of this series, Grant, is that the artist pulls these images out of something beyond their personality, the subconscious mind. So when you share this, I think it's a stimulation of other people's subconscious. And
I hope so.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the value of art. Thank you, Grant. Beautiful.
So I have Phil Gruber actually as my mentor. I'm learning karate.
Oh yeah, what's his thing he called? He was my roommate for about 3 years in New York.
So. Well, here's an example of it's a bio-spiritual regenerist program. So it's all about consciousness. So this is kind of a painting from the program that I'm working with Phil. So
I think it's Katara.
Katara, that's correct.
That's beautiful as well.
Regenerist. It's all about dementia, so it really fits in with what I am doing, obviously. Lead with your right foot. That's what I do.
Well, thank you everybody for showing up and for sharing. It's very informative. Alan, do you want to sort of maybe close down, because we didn't really introduce you much at the beginning. You're doing a panel tomorrow. Can you talk about what you're doing tomorrow? Maybe some of the people might want to tune in.
Yeah, hopefully you, Grant, and Nicole can join me, because I'm going to be talking to this yoga institute, the Rama Institute for Applied Science, and they use Kundalini to activate the consciousness. They're not traditional yogis, so they're putting on a festival of consciousness. And I thought, Grant, you're great at talking about, and Nicole, I like what you've said on Grant's show. So we're going to talk about UFOs in terms of consciousness and taking it to the next level. We'll talk about the Hebrew prime minister, the Israeli prime minister, and what he got. So we'll talk about some of the new topics, and it's called the Rama Festival, and it's lots of things. It's they do this Kundalini meditation, but they also do to focus on art. They focus on, I brought the UFO factor in there. They talk about visual art. They talk about, I haven't really looked at the whole program, but they're going to welcome us and a whole new consciousness there. And so look at the Rama Festival tomorrow. Me, Grant, Nicole, and maybe one of the yogis there will be on, what did I say? Was it
3 Central.
3 Central, yeah, and 1 o'clock Pacific. And they do a lot of cutting edge events. Like their whole yogi group spent a night at the Integratron. And so
there's Maddie,
isn't it?
Yep.
Oh.
No, this is Lillian Grace. This is the little one.
Oh, can she paint as well? Hello.
Hi.
Are you an artist as well? We're doing art today.
Not that good, but I started making a comic a long time ago, and I'm finishing it.
Oh, will you be on my next show? Can you come on my next show?
Maybe.
Okay. We'll see what the price is. If it's not too much money, I'll bring you on. Wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And Alan, maybe again, because you didn't get an intro, can you talk about the book? I've got a chapter in the book. You got a book coming up, and can you talk about? You're a big figure at Contact in the Desert. Can you talk about?
One of the MCs at Contact in the Desert, and one of my favorite things to do is host a panel, bringing lots of different perspectives together. So I went to this publisher and I came with this other book. They said, no, we want you to do this book. Let me see if I could bring it up on Amazon. It's called Making Contact. And what I've arranged is like Nick Pope leads it off. He talks about the hardware, the government cover-ups, and then we go deeper into the personal, into the conscious awareness. So Grant has a second chapter. He talks about the theory of wow. And then I have Linda Moulton Howe. I got an essay from John Mack, an unpublished essay from his archives, and they were very nice about publishing that. And I talked to JJ Woodcock and their kind of extra celestial contacts. Who else is in there? I got Bashar. Daryl Anker writes a chapter about his own experience as making contact with these beings for 30 years. I got this poet named Henrietta Weeks, who's she talks in a non-linear form about her contact experience. And I close it off with Carolyn Corey, who's really merged. I think she is some of the closest people to actually being an ET type of humans, because she somehow has activated this higher consciousness. She just did a film called Superhuman, and let me see if I can just pull. So anyway, you can pre-order the book on Amazon. Let me see if I can just pull up that page. And I think it's very exciting because it's for the person not familiar with the UFO phenomenon, but it's also about for people who have gone deep in it. I think there's some new territory that is covered. I talk about my own abduction experience in 1987, where I was frozen in time, where I was a time mold. That's how I describe it, was made of where I was sleeping in this van in Western Nebraska. And everything stopped in this regression. And then I was taken out of that time sort of continuum, and then I was put back in after they finished with me, and it was if everything had stopped and a kind of I entered an alternative universe. So can I just screen share my book for a second? And thank you, Grant. And Grant, I actually reference you in my essay because you've been such an inspiration for me, and all the levels of investigation that you've done, especially this is new ground. You're covering, art and how that is downloaded into this higher consciousness, and also the spirituality that you're starting to bring into the UFO field, something that John Mack hints about in his essay. I think his essay in my book is called Studies on the Implicate Order. So I'm just looking to share my screen. Can I just, do you have a screen share? It's not, it says disabled. I think.
Okay, hang on. Let me.
And yeah, thanks for the opportunity here because I think this could really go mainstream, this book, because the reason I had so many different people contribute, because no one really knows what's going on, oh wait, no, you just disabled. Let me try it one more time. And
okay, try again.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. This is preparing for the new realities of terrestrial existence. I don't particularly like the UFO. I said it should be more defined, but the publisher said, no, we want this UFO. I said, well, that's not the kind I use, but that's okay. So here we have, let me see. This is a collection. Whitley Strieber's in there. Mary Rodwell, me. And so it's a really nice, I feel, orientation to the whole phenomena, because I try to cover it all and then talk about how it's up to each one of us to really start to make contact. I've written the title with making with a little asterisk and then contact. And the publisher says to me, why do you want to put that asterisk in there? What does that mean? I said, that asterisk is the point of contact. It is a non-verbal communication of how our minds operate in symbols. It's not about words. So I think they finally agreed to put that asterisk in there. But it was,
Amen, Alan.
it was outside the box of what they're used to. So anyway, thanks, Grant, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. And keep me informed of this series.
Yeah.
Somebody I really like is Kamara Jones. Her.
Yeah, you mentioned. Yeah, we'll try to get some connection and do that. There's a lot of people reaching out, so it may become popular where people start to realize the link, that there is this link.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate being here, and I love everybody's input and art. And I think we have to keep going. This is what I'm writing about. It's up to us to download the future so people can then cognize it and then bring it into their lives. This art is not a little thing. Art is how we start to structure reality. And the more people can see this stuff, the more we can apply it. Yeah. April,
Alan, can I add to that? I always tell everybody the most important thing for humans is art, because it's the only way we remember. Through a written word, architect, cave paintings. They found an 8-mile-long mural on Amazon. So this is the only way we remember where we came from, art.
Well, William Blake said the imagination is the human being. That is the essence of the human being. And if you don't have imagination, you're really not human in the traditional sense.
Okay, that's human.
I quote a lot of visionaries who talk about it. Like Marshall McLuhan said, the artist was always leading the pack. They get he called it the DEW. This is in 1960, the distant early warning of what the future holds. So, and maybe I'll share my Hilma of Klint, this Swedish artist. She does something called a swan series where she paints 24 pictures of the swan, but she starts with realistic swans, and then she goes into like a quantum field. She totally abstracts it and paints pure energy. And she does 24 series as she breaks down the material world into energetic components. And this was in the early 1900s, when even before quantum theory, but she seems to imply this. So
nice.
Art for our future.
Thank you. Beautiful. That's wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful way to end it. And your book, you're doing the art book, so maybe we'll bring you on as a part of a series, or maybe even do an interview with you about your art book and link it into this.
Well, I'll send you the Hilma work, and you'll see I'll send you my essay on that, and you'll see.
Okay. Beautiful.
I think this series is going to be ongoing, Grant. I don't think it's going to wrap up in 1 or 2 panels or 1 or 2 interviews. No, it's just going to be a rolling series. So it'll be nice. Thank you all so much.
This will appear on your channel, so you can let all these people know the link, and we'll post it on your link, and then we'll post it on ours. And your YouTube page is what?
Just my name, Nicole Sackage. You can find me at YouTube. and on Facebook.
We just need, we need another about 50 people to subscribe, so you can start to live screen, and then you don't have to rely on me screwing everything up here. You can actually do the live feed, and we can actually feed this thing live. So
we'll see. It's an ongoing teaching process, as is everything in life. So have to learn how to control YouTube and technology. So thank you all very much. Tiffany, April, Steve, Alan, Candace, you're there in the background too. And on behalf of Chase, I think he had to leave. I'll say goodbye for him and myself. And thank you, Grant, for being along for this ride as well.
Beautiful.
Say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.